Good evening. Welcome to our sophomore parent program. My name is John Cross. I'm the coordinator of college counseling here at Glenbrook South High School. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. I'll start with just a brief history. This is my 13th year at Glenbrook South. I started as a generalist 13 years ago. I also have done some coaching at Glenbrook South. I've coached football, basketball, lacrosse, and I also coordinate our peer group program here at the high school. Prior to coming to Glenbrook South, I was at Lake Forest College, which is a selective liberal arts school, about 10 to 15 miles just northeast of here. There I worked in the admission office, did recruiting, and spent a lot of time reading applications. So I certainly have the background on the other side of the desk, and I certainly look forward to sharing that experience with you over the next several years. And as I said before, this is our sophomore parent program. And our first slide here, if you take a look here, a picture of the teenage brain. And some of you may or may not have read some of the research that has been done out there, the scientific research, certainly on the teenage brain. When we talk about the fact that the teenage brain is still being developed, and there's some shortcomings in terms of making rational decisions. And again, if you can see this or read this up here, you can see this very small sometimes. Part for that schoolwork, that rational thinking, that organization. And so one of the things that we are here to do certainly is to help guide your son or daughter through this process. And I think we have a great curriculum in place to provide that. We have a great counseling staff here. We have a staff of 12 generalist counselors that have developed a great curriculum to walk your son or daughter through this journey. So ultimately, our goal here is that your son, in this case, doesn't end up like this in your basement for the next 15, 20 years. Looks very comfortable. I don't think he's going anywhere fast. So certainly our goal is to think about where we want to be, a successful high school, subsequently successful college graduation, and then hopefully starting a job sometime soon so that you can do that. Right? If you have to be somewhere, hands up, and amen, somebody said in the back. That's great. And it's funny when I was actually Googling images, because I thought, well, if I show this slideshow to your son or daughter, I can't show them this, because everybody knows how reverse psychology works, right? If I show them this, they'll sabotage certainly, and they'll be just like that guy. So we don't want that to happen. So when I was Googling images, I was looking for some images. Son or daughter leaves home for a job. And I was looking for some pictures of crying parents. There were none. I could not find one single picture, so there it is. So let's talk a little bit about curriculum. And we talk about the freshman year, and some of you may have seen our freshman curriculum. We certainly have already gone through it. In the freshman year, one of the things that we like to do is get our students in Naviance. And most of you probably already have a pretty good idea of Naviance. I like to think of Naviance as kind of our college locker. It's really where we house all of our college information. It's a great place to get everything kind of organized in one place regarding the college process. And many of you probably have an opportunity to see Naviance already. Your son or daughter had a password given to them freshman year. We get them in freshman year nice and early so that they feel comfortable using Naviance, because it's really a tool and a resource that we will use throughout the 4 years. We also did a 4-year plan, so this should look familiar. Hopefully you have an opportunity to sit down with your son or daughter's counselor and go over their 4-year plan. I think really this is fundamental to their success for the next 4 years. For them to physically sit down and see a plan to their ultimate goal in terms of that curriculum and plan. And we take this very seriously. Certainly every year they will meet with their counselor to go over this particular plan and make sure that it's meeting their ultimate goal, whatever that is. And many times we'll talk about certain different types of colleges and where they want to be in what range in terms of curriculum and the classes that they're taking. So hopefully most of you remember doing that 4-year plan, and certainly we'll refer back to that when we have those registration meetings every year face-to-face with your son or daughter's counselor. In the sophomore year, we really start to address the question, why? Why do we want to go to college? We start to try to align that career piece that potential major piece. And so we spend a lot of time doing some different inventories, and the one that we just completed was the career interest profile. And if you haven't talked to your son or daughter about this, because I know sometimes they come home and they don't want to share these things with you, I'm going to show you where this is housed and not housed. This is a great opportunity for you to sit down and take a look at what results they had regarding the career interest profile, and I'll show you that slide here in a minute. I'll also talk about Road Trip Nation as well. And then we also do a transcript review and goal setting, and then a preview and now into the college search function. So let me start by talking a little bit about the career interest profile. So students went through and looked at a variety of different questions regarding activities in regards to work. And they would answer like, unsure, or dislike. And it takes about 15 minutes. There's 90 questions that they answer during this particular exercise. And then it gives them results in 6 different categories. And certainly up here you can see in this particular case, they highlighted 3 of those categories for this particular student, Tom of the Titan here. And he came up high in artistic, social, and enterprising. And so again, your son or daughter has an opportunity to see where are their strengths. And then, if you see in the bottom corner here, it says view matching occupation list. So after they get these results, they can take a look and see some of the different areas of potential careers. And it's listed in a variety of different preparation categories. I didn't show you the first couple. One's little or known. I think bartender is one of them. I left that one out. This is considerable preparation. So considerable preparation is basically a 4-year bachelor degree. And then extensive preparation would be an MBA or continuing education beyond that. And so the students get an idea after those results are displayed of potential career interests. So in this particular case, human resource manager was something that was on the list. So a student can click on that human resource manager, and it's what it's going to give them. If you look up in the top left-hand side there, it will give them related college majors. So if you want to go into human resources, here are some potential majors that you might look at that would address that particular career interest. And it also gives related occupations, so it kind of expands some of that interest. So this is a great resource for our students. Then if you can also click on, okay, what colleges offer these particular majors? So again, it helps you define some of the programs that are offered at these different colleges. And so I listed at the bottom here, I just took a snapshot of what, when you click on that, what it shows. And certainly there's probably some schools up there that you recognize. So again, this is a wonderful resource for our students, and it really starts to get them thinking about those potential career interests, driving that college process. Transcript review. In the sophomore year, we do a transcript review with the students. And I always love this opportunity to sit down with students because we have a transcript in front of them. And at that particular point, they have 2 semesters of work because we just finished this. Typically, I should say we finished it last semester. So they don't have the 3rd semester's work on their transcript yet. They just have freshman year. And when I sit down with them and I say, take a look at where your cumulative GPA is. And some of them are happy where they're at, and some are not so happy where they're at. I say, we do this in December. So you're about a month away from being halfway done with what you're going to send on to colleges. And that resonates with them. First of all, I think they think my math is wrong. Like, I have a lot more time in high school than you think, Mr. Clemson. I say, you're going to apply to schools at the end of your junior year. And those are the grades that they're going to see. And not to say that your senior courses aren't important, but those grades that you have up until your junior year, that's what the colleges are going to see. And you're a month away from that. And that really, again, resonates with them in terms of, yeah, there's not much more time here. And I've really got to start working hard to make sure that I get my GPA up in time to send out to these colleges. So this is a great opportunity to do this transcript review and take a look at where we're at. What do we need to readjust? Are you challenging yourself? Are you challenging yourself enough in your curriculum? If you're getting straight A's, then it might be time to look at one of those opportunities maybe to take an honors course. because schools want to see that continual challenge within your curriculum. It's very important. Certainly, I read enough applications to know when a student was kind of coasting and not pushing themselves. And that could be a detriment to the student. So this is a great opportunity for us to reassess where they're at. For those of you who might be a little bit confused still in terms of, we do have two GPAs. We have an academic GPA, and then we have an all-subject GPA. And basically our academic GPA includes the courses in the areas of English, foreign language, math, science, social studies, and any other elective that is taken either at the honors level or at the AP level. For example, if a student takes AP art, that goes into their academic GPA. If a student takes honors consumer, that goes into their academic GPA. That's a weighted GPA, still on a 4.0 scale. So sometimes people get confused in terms of what scale we're on, still a 4.0 scale. But it will be higher than a 4.0, obviously, if you have A's in those honors courses. Then we have an all-subject non-weighted GPA, which is all of your courses non-weighted, okay? Colleges can look at either. Most colleges are going to really look at that academic GPA. The other thing that we like to do in our planning is goal setting with Naviance. Just a show of hands in here, how many of you have gone into the scattergram feature in Naviance? Okay, so maybe a quarter of you, okay, 20% maybe, all right? I really like this feature a lot because I think it takes the onus off of you in terms of staying on your son or daughter in terms of grades. When we show this in our classes and when we do presentations and we pull up a school, I think it really gets their attention in terms of what they need to do academically to move on to the next level. And this is a great example. Here's Illinois State. And we like to show students, at Illinois State, the average here is a 3.0 and a 25. And again, as a parent, you can show them the scattergram, and instead of harping on them to do their homework, pull up a few schools that you think they might be interested in. And say, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the data that's out there. Illinois State's a great example. Here's a moderately selective school. And you can see it's still going to take mostly A's and B's and a good solid test score to get into Illinois State. Another opportunity is to look at a little more selective school, like University of Madison, which every year is becoming more and more selective, as you can see up here. And these are statistics. These are actually a little bit older. You can see these are 2006 to 2009. So this is actually the data's a little bit older. Okay, it's become even more selective. But again, these are great opportunities to do some goal setting and some reality checks in terms of where you're at in the process and where you want to be. I think it's always important to challenge students. Kind of that difference between eustress and distress. Eustress is that positive challenge, which all of us need. Distress is that challenge that's kind of insurmountable that we heap upon our students that aren't realistic. And I think we always got to keep that eustress front and foremost with our students. In the junior year, we're really looking at refining the college search process. We're also continuing the conversation about career interests and really trying to formulate, okay, what are some particular majors that you might want to pursue? Certainly all schools do, things differently, and some schools have better programs than others. And so we try to drive them in looking at some of those different programs. I'll talk about my resume feature in a minute. The college representative fall schedule. I think as a sophomore, a lot of students probably obviously aren't thinking about the college process just yet. And we see typically the people that take advantage of our reps are our seniors in the fall of their senior year. By that point, they kind of solidified where they want to go, and they're seeing those college reps in the fall. But I think as a junior next year, I think it's really important to meet those college reps, to get in and listen to what they have to say about their particular school. Something that I did in my career at Lake Forest College, and they bring a great perspective on that school. The other thing that's really big out there right now is demonstrated interest. So a lot of schools are keeping record of the contacts that they have with a particular student. That ultimately has to do with yield. If you think about it from a college perspective, the more contacts that they have with a particular student, the higher that potential yield is for that student if they end up admitting that student. Yield is very important for colleges for many reasons. Not the least being rankings. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So demonstrated interest is a really important thing. And the more times that you can have those contacts with those schools and show some of that demonstrated interest, the better it is for your particular son or daughter. So I really highly recommend, now it is during the day, and they have to miss class to go see some of these reps. So I mean, they have to think about their schedule and certainly work with their schedule to make sure that they can see these reps. But this is a great opportunity to get a wealth of information without going all over the country to get it. So our college rep schedule, and that's in Naviance. You'll be able to see that in Naviance. We'll be releasing that over the summer once we schedule our reps late summer, probably August. You'll be able to see a list of those reps that are coming. We have over 260 reps that come every year. And again, those are great connects for our students. And then we do something called Do What You Are, which is a Myers-Briggs personality type. And I'll get to that right after I talk about the resume. The resume feature in Naviance is something that I think all students can be using right now. If your son or daughter is thinking about applying for a job, I think the resume feature in Naviance is a perfect thing for them to do because they can get all of their experience in one spot and then it prints out a nice resume for them to bring to a future employer. I also think when it comes time to actually start filling out their applications, they'll have all of this in one central place, organized very neatly, and they can refer back to this when it comes time, again, to fill out those applications. I think a lot of kids think, well, I'll just remember it, when the time comes. But if they're keeping a nice list here in the My Resume feature, it's going to make it really easy for them to go back and access this when it comes time to apply for schools. And again, for employment, I think this is also another great feature. I think it's underutilized. I think students see it and then they kind of forget about it and they haven't been using it. So if you can encourage your son or daughter to use this, I think it'll make life a lot easier senior year when it actually comes to applying to schools. Do What You Are, again, is a Myers-Briggs personality type assessment. And again, all these assessments can be either found in the About Me tab or the Career tab. So if you want to go with your son or daughter and look at the Career Interest Profiler, or you want to go in and take a look at the Do What You Are, you can certainly go in. You have to log in with their password and log in. But you can go ahead and take a look at this. So in the Do What You Are, again, it's going to ask them several different questions that they will answer about their personality type. And then it's going to give them a report based on their personality type. And one of the reasons that we do this, really kind of twofold. One is, again, looking at the alignment with career. So we'll give them a handout that will talk about potential careers that might match up nicely with particular personality types. In this case, Time and Titan came out with an ENTJ personality type. But we'll also do that with talking about roommates. We'll say this is going to give you some insight into the fact that there's different personality types. Not a right or a wrong personality, but different types of personalities. And that you're going to have to live with a roommate that's going to most likely have a different personality type, although schools are starting to use similar instruments to match students up for roommate selection. I don't know if that's necessarily a good or bad thing. I think it's important. That's part of the learning process, to learn to deal with people that have different personality types. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's a different thing. And so we really talk to our students about that. So I think this is a great assessment that we give our students. I want to talk a little bit about testing because that's going to be coming up very soon next year for your son or daughter. I want to talk about the difference between the ACT and the SAT. Some of you may or may not know the ACT is an achievement test. It has up to 5 components: English, math, reading, science, and an optional writing test. I would recommend that you should have your son or daughter certainly take an ACT with a writing test. There's a lot of schools out there that require the writing test. And so you want to make sure that you have at least one test that includes the writing, okay? Students get to decide where they send their scores. So you don't have to immediately send your scores. You can take a look at your scores and decide which schools to send those to. I think there's often a misconception about the fact that if you send your scores and the schools and they're not great, the school sees those scores and you send a higher set of scores, that the school's not going to admit you on those scores. That's not true. Schools are always looking to admit students, and they're always looking at the highest scores. One thing I will tell you with the ACT is they like to make money, and they charge you for everything. And the price keeps going up every year in terms of what it costs to send those scores. ACT gives you 4 free score choices when you take the ACT. I recommend that you use those 4 free score choices and send them to schools. After that, I think now it's $17 to send to each school. That's, that can add up after you send, the ACT to several schools. So again, you have your choice in terms of where you want to send those, but they do give you the option to send 4 free score choices when you take the test. The SAT is going to be revamped coming up in 2016. The SAT is an aptitude test as opposed to an achievement test, so there's a fundamental difference there. It's going to have 2 components. It's going to have an evidence-based reading and writing component, and then a math component. And the essay, again, will be optional. My recommendation, again, if you're going to take the SAT, is to certainly take at least an SAT with 1 writing as well. Again, you're not sure how or what particular schools are going to need that score. In terms of which test to take, because it can often be confusing. Do I take the SAT? Do I take the ACT? This past year, we gave the ACT here at Glenbrook South High School. We gave the state gave 1 free ACT to our students. Typically, I think our students historically have taken more ACT tests than they take SAT tests. That's pretty historic here. The ACT, is really kind of more of a Midwest test. The SAT being an East or West Coast test. Some students might score better on the SAT. My philosophy is have them take both if you're not sure, see which one they do better on. In terms of planning, I do think you might want to pick one test and focus on that test if you're going to take the test several times. Because I do think familiarity with the test is, I see students scoring higher with that basic familiarity with the test. I think that's a big bonus for students. There is no more score choice. SAT used to have score choice, but they've eliminated score choice on the new SAT that's coming out. And I love this. The Khan Academy has partnered with SAT to offer free test prep. And I think this is revolutionary when it comes to testing, to be honest. They recognize what was going on with test prep and inequities with some of the testing that's going on out there. And so the Khan Academy has partnered with SAT to offer a really comprehensive test prep program. So I think that's fantastic. And again, that's going to be coming out in 2016, so it will be in the spring of 2016. And you can go to collegeboard.com if you want to read any more about the new SAT that's coming out. Basic testing information. Students may take the ACT, SAT-1, and SAT-2s more than once. Most of our students do take those tests more than once. SAT-2s, by the way, are subject tests. So they're a portion or a secondary test from the SAT, and some schools out there will require those SAT-2 subject tests. That's something you don't have to worry about right now. You can talk to your counselor or myself next year about those SAT-2s and whether or not those would be appropriate for your son or daughter. Again, colleges are going to take the best score that the student submits. Okay? A lot of schools out there now do what they call super score. So they'll take the best subsets, best sub-scores of each of those tests and recalculate them to give you a super score. Okay, so again, it's in your best interest if you take those tests multiple times to send those tests so they can see those scores. We do not send the ACT or SAT scores, so your son or daughter will be responsible for sending those directly from the testing agency. And again, this goes back to what I was saying before. When you have opportunities to send those for free, it's wise to do that and save yourself the $50 dollars that would cost to send those other ones. Just to give you an idea, this year, again, we had a free ACT test that we offered students. We don't know at this point what next year is going to look like in terms of testing, whether or not that will still happen. So stay tuned. We'll let you know next spring if we offer that ACT. This year we offered it March 3rd. But students should all plan on taking an additional ACT, okay, a national ACT that's given, not just a state ACT. Just an idea of this year in terms of the dates of some of the testing. I know some of you might have plans next year, so it's a good idea. Again, this is this year's testing, not next year's, but the months stay the same. There's always an ACT in April, there's always an ACT in June, there's always an ACT in September, October. So you'll have some opportunities in those months to take the ACT, as well as February. I don't know if that March date will be there or not. Again, stay tuned, we'll let you know. And same thing with the SAT. We do often offer those testing opportunities at Glenbrook South, but if it's not at Glenbrook South, it will be in one of the neighboring schools for your son or daughter to be able to take those tests. We will have a question and answer session after this if anybody has any questions, so feel free to ask those questions. Test prep. We have a variety of different options for test prep. Certainly understand the anxiety with testing, but let me say one thing before we get into the test prep, just from the other side of the desk. All schools, and if you read any articles on college admissions, the number one thing that they say they will look at is your curriculum. Okay, the curriculum that you've taken in high school. Have you challenged yourself? We talked about this a little bit earlier. And then the second thing that they're going to look at is certainly your GPA within those classes. The third thing they'll look at is testing, but it's third. And it's always important to remember that order, because I think sometimes as we get into this testing craze, we sometimes lose sight of that. So some of the options that we have here for test prep, we have Glenbrook courses that are offered in the evenings and after school, and those will start January of the junior year. Those are offered again here at Glenbrook South, very reasonable in price. I think they're $275 for the sessions. I don't have the exact information, but it's a very manageable price for what you're getting. And then One-to-One Learning Center comes on Saturdays and Sundays. I believe last year that was 10 sessions for $350. It's a not-for-profit company that we have come here to the high school to help our students. There are plenty of community-based test prep options out there. I'm sure some of you have talked to people that have gone to test prep options that are out in the community. They can vary in price. Again, we're trying to offer some reasonable programs here at the high school to help aid you in this testing craze. Prep Me is the one that I think I'm really excited about. This is a product through Naviance. We just bought it this year. We're rolling it out. We're going to turn it on for sophomores tomorrow morning. So you have an opportunity to look at this. Our juniors currently have access to Prep Me. But Prep Me is a great resource. And again, it really depends on the motivation of your son or daughter. If you have a son or daughter who's willing to put the time in and sit down, I think Prep Me is a great option for them. I think and I'm going to show you just a little bit here what it looks like, but I think it could be a wonderful option for them. They can access it from their Naviance homepage. There's an icon that says Prep Me. They'll go in to Prep Me and they'll do a diagnostic on each of the different sections that are offered on the ACT. And then it will prescribe to them a weekly schedule for them to follow. So they'll put in when their next test date is, and it will prescribe a weekly schedule up until that next test date of what they need to accomplish in the time that they need to put in to the test prep in order to accomplish their goals. So it's a wonderful resource for our students to work with. And again, I present this tonight Not so that you go and spend all your time in having your son or daughter put more time into this than their academics. But I do think as the summer rolls around, if you have an opportunity to access this, I think it gives you a great opportunity to get them thinking about this resource, getting them comfortable with this resource. I feel really strongly about PrepMe and what it has to offer our students. In the senior year, we're again using Naviance to assist in the college application process. Students are asking for letters of recommendation. We're starting to ask those teachers and identify those teachers to write those letters of recommendation. We do a parent brag sheet. We're tracking applications, and we're rolling out our scholarship information. So I just want to give you a visual here in Naviance, again, in terms of organizing their colleges. So students can go in and they can put in a list of schools that they are thinking about. So junior year, around February, they'll meet with their counselor and then they'll meet with myself. And we'll start to recommend some potential schools for them to look at. They'll house those schools here at Naviance in my colleges, and then they'll be able to move those colleges later on to the colleges that they're applying to. So really one-stop shopping for organizing all of their college data. This also gives them an opportunity to kind of compare against the averages in terms of ACT and GPA. Again, we saw that with the category feature. We'll also post scholarship information in Naviance so students can take a look and see if there's an appropriate scholarship that would meet their needs. And again, we feel a successful graduation is when students consider why they're going to college as important as to where they're going. And again, with our curriculum, I think you can see it through the 4 years. We're looking at that career piece. We're really trying to identify some of those areas of interest and strengths that the particular student has. So as we start to think about the college process, we really want our students to think about why they're going to college. Invest some time in that. And what do they hope to gain from college? Aside from the specific skill set, what else do they look at obtaining when they go to college? Take a personal inventory of their academic strengths and weaknesses. Talk to a number of adults. What would they do differently if they had an opportunity to start college over? And then certainly use the GBS resources that we have. On the 9th of April at GBN is our college fair. Every year we do a college fair. We rotate Glenbrook South and Glenbrook North. This year it's at Glenbrook North. I don't think it's too early to have your son or daughter attend the college fair. I think it's a great opportunity to see, again, over 200 colleges in one place where they can get a lot of information about these particular schools. And it'll hopefully excite them about the college process. So I think this is a great place to start on the 9th at these college fairs. And again, we talked earlier about that demonstrated interest piece. Those are contacts. The reps oftentimes that are working those booths at the college fair are oftentimes the same people that might be reading those applications when you submit applications later on. So those are great contacts to have and a great place to get your questions answered regarding those particular colleges. So that's going to be on April 9th, and that's at 6:30 at Glenbrook North. Academics. We start to talk about planning for college. I said this earlier and I'll reiterate it again. It's the most important thing that a college admission officer is going to read. Did they challenge themselves every year? Are they continually looking at opportunities to challenge themselves within their curriculum? And I think, the primary reason for students is certainly to get into a good college. But I think if you really look back on it, it's more to prepare them for the courses that they're going to take in college. Now, if you tell sophomores that, if you tell juniors that, if you told seniors that, they probably wouldn't resonate with them. But when I ask our graduates when they come back, and I ask them, how prepared were you for college? And every one of them will say, very prepared. In fact, some of the courses that they took at Glenbrook South are even harder than some of the classes that I'm taking at college. So again, I think it's so important, to challenge students. I'll have students sometimes in their senior year, they're not doing so well in a particular class. And they'll say, Mr. Class, I really want to drop this class. I've never gotten a C before. And I say, what's more beneficial? For you to get a C in this class and have a solid foundation when you go into college. Now we're dropping this class right now. And most students then obviously understand that and understand what they're getting out of these courses and how it's preparing them for the next stage. And establish an upward trend. We talked back earlier about when students look at that transcript and maybe they're not where they want to be in their sophomore year. Colleges always want to see that upward trend. They want to see that students are rising to the challenge. So an upward trend is always very important. So if you started out kind of slow, you still have a great opportunity to show the colleges who you're going to be. And it's a great opportunity still. Extracurricular activities. I think there's sometimes, again, a misperception about what you should do in terms of extracurricular activities. Mr. Klassen, should I have a whole list of activities? How many do I need? What's the number? What's the magic number that a college admission person is going to look at that I need in terms of clubs and activities? There is no magic number. Honestly, there is no magic number. When we look through applications, what we want to see is passion. What we want to see is investment in those particular clubs or activities. We want to see a student that is striving for leadership opportunities in those particular clubs and organizations. Those are the things that college admission officers want to see. It's not just a laundry list of activities that a student signed up for. Again, they want to see that path. Now, as we start the college search, I hope that this is an exciting time for you. I feel like there's so much stress around this, and I think it can be such a wonderful opportunity for students to go out and look at colleges. And I think it's a great opportunity for you to bond with your son or daughter as you go out and look at some of these colleges. And I don't think it's too early to start that process. Even though you might not know necessarily what particular schools you want to see, I think there's a lot of things that you could be doing now. I think you can go and start to decipher whether or not a large public school or a small private school is a better fit. An urban or suburban environment is a good fit. A Midwest school, or if you're on vacation somewhere in the South or West, if that's a good fit. Culturally, there's going to be differences there. So I don't think it's too soon to start that process. Certainly in the fall of the junior year, to get out to some of these local campuses and to get a flavor for those local campuses, I think it would be in your best interest to start to do that. Plus, everybody's schedules are different. You may have a son or daughter that's very involved in a spring sport or a spring club or activity, and you might not have the time in the spring to go out and visit some of those schools. The fall presents some great opportunities and a lot of 3-day weekends where schools might still be in session. And the second semester for a lot of schools also ends typically around May. And so, it's a short second semester. So again, if you have opportunities in the fall to go visit some of these schools, I highly recommend that you do that. You can certainly use Naviance to research the colleges. There's a wealth of information in Naviance that you can get. Read the information that colleges send you, but be somewhat cautious about what they're sending you, and be somewhat cautious in terms of the message sometimes that they're sending to your son or daughter. I'll get some students that come into my office that are really good students, and they'll say, Yale sent me some literature. They must want me. Okay, and that can be misleading to a student. Now Yale would love for their application because, and we'll talk about this later in the rankings, but Yale would like as many applications as they could possibly get. It makes their ranking much higher. But again, be cautious in terms of what you get, but certainly read that material and look over that material as you get it. Again, your goal is a list of schools, any one of which you'd be happy to attend. And there's many, many schools out there that would be appropriate for your son or daughter as you start to research these schools. So as we look at finding the fit, I think it's really important to think about, it's not a prize, it's not a trophy. We're looking for what's the best fit for your son or daughter, a place where they would feel comfortable, a place where you see them spending 4 years in growing and challenging themselves. That's when we talk about what's a good fit, a place where they're going to be curious. Going to get them outside their comfort zone. Not necessarily a school where they're going to have to study 24/7. They're not get involved in clubs and activities. So for each student, that can mean a different thing. Most students that we talk to are very happy with their choice, even if it wasn't their first choice. In many cases, we talk to a lot of kids where they don't get into their first choice, but they're thriving in some of those other schools that they looked at, as long as you do your research. So I think it's important to do that research and make sure that you have a variety of different options, not just one single option. Avoid the MIC rankings. Again, I talked about this just a second ago. I think that you have to be very careful about going in and just looking at rankings, because there's a lot that goes into those rankings. And as of late, I think more and more schools, with the introduction of the common application, which is becoming more and more popular among students, it makes it so much easier to apply to these schools. And you're starting to see admit rates continually in the single digits at some of these highly selective schools and other schools, because they're driving more and more students to these particular schools. Doesn't make them necessarily a better school in terms of the instruction and what the students are getting. Not necessarily. Makes them higher ranked because of some of those other variables that are taking place. I really think it's important, again, to talk to your son or daughter about it's not the school that you attend, but what you do at that school. I was reading an article just recently about the top 10 CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. There's only one Ivy League school listed on that list. Schools like Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, those are some of Auburn, those are some of the other schools that are on that list. Again, Kansas University, we talk about don't stereotype schools. And the students will do that. Well, Kansas is easy to get into. Look at this category. Kansas has one of the best honors programs in the country. It's a top tier 1 research school. So again, I think you have to be careful about how we stereotype these schools based on the information that we have. Colleges require a good deal of independent initiative and personal responsibility in order to be successful. Again, if you start to move towards this process, it's important that your son or daughter drives this process. And you hear the term helicopter parents. Well, there's a part of it that's going to hover, because this is a huge investment. So you're going to hover a little bit, and you should. But when it comes to filling out the application, and when it comes to submitting the application and those types of things, it's really important that that's a task that your son or daughter takes on. Because eventually, they are going to go to college, and they're not going to have you there to do those things for them. And it's important that they realize that responsibility. So a few pearls of wisdom that I'd just like to leave you with tonight. Be realistic, but don't be afraid to aim high. All kids should have reach schools on their list. Again, it's really hard to determine. And you'll see this as you start to see admission decisions come out. One student got in, the other student didn't get in. Why did that happen? Sometimes, there's no rhyme or reason why one particular student gets in and one doesn't. Sometimes it can have to do with the curriculum that they've taken, the challenge. Oftentimes you'll hear people compare the same GPA. They'll say, well, I had the same GPA as that particular student, but you don't know the rigor that particular student took. So again, be realistic, but don't be afraid to aim high. Don't rely on the myths and rumors that you see. Do your research. Ask the questions when you go to these schools. And be open-minded in terms of the options that are out there. They're plentiful. There's a lot of great schools out there. I talked to them about this before. Don't stereotype people or colleges. Don't roll out of college because of cost. I think one of the things when you start to look at some of the small private schools is you see price tags in the $50,000, $60,000 range, and you can immediately dismiss some of those schools. I think it's important to look at what the actual costs of some of those schools are. Now, a lot of these private institutions, they do have a lot of grant money available for students. Scholarship and grant money. Not loans, but scholarship and grant money that can often defray the cost down to a cost that's close to some of the state schools. So don't immediately discount a school because of cost. Keep a sense of humor about the process. Again, I think it can be very anxiety-provoking as you start this process. And it's unfortunate in some ways because it should be one of the most exciting times of your life. You're getting to see some great schools. Hopefully, spend some quality time with your son or daughter. You're setting them off for the future. I want this to be an exciting time. And I think if you plan carefully and research, it should be. As long as you start early enough and you don't wait till the last minute, you'll have a plan in place. And we're going to certainly help get you there. Encourage your student, but don't overstep. Again, this should be their process to some degree. Again, you're going to most likely be paying most of the bill, and so you should have input. But again, you know how reverse psychology works. If they think you're overstepping, you'll say one thing, they'll do the other thing. So again, it's a great partnership with your son or daughter. And keep things in perspective. I like this last quote here. Nowhere is it written that life begins or ends with the college admission process. And that's the bottom line. Okay? Everyone's going to find a place. Every year we do this, and every year we find a great school for your son or daughter. And that's the bottom line. We're going to work hard to find those appropriate places. They go on, they do wonderful things, as you know. And those of you that are in the community, you've seen our students go on. Again, it's because of who they are. Not the school they went to, but because of who they are and the experience that they have at college, because they make that experience. And they have a very good background coming from Glenbrook South. So again, I think it's really important to keep that in mind as you start to think about this process. So that's the end of my presentation. I will take questions if anybody has any questions, but I don't want to keep anybody longer than we have to. But if there are some questions out there that anybody has regarding the college process, or Naviance and curriculum, I'm happy to certainly answer those.
Does the audience have anything on there about the financial aid application process?
Good question. So the question was, does Naviance have anything about the financial aid process on there? So there is a link to the FAFSA that's on there, and the FAFSA is a free application for federal student aid. And that is out there. That will be something that you'll fill out January of senior year. You have plenty of time to do that. Okay? That's a good question. Yeah, and you can always, for cost of all the schools, the cost will be on there. Okay? Other questions regarding, yeah?
Is there a list of commonly asked questions?
List of commonly asked questions. No, that's a good question. It's not a, it is not. Like, do you want to visit? I tell you what, there is. Quite honestly, if you Google commonly asked questions, you'll get great, and you'll get a variety of them. And it's a good thing to do. I think it's a great to have that handout and highlight some of those questions. I actually have it set on my desk, to be honest, where it says, here's what you should ask the admission office. Here's what you should ask a student ambassador when you go on a tour. Here's what you should ask a professor. So that's a great question. And honestly, if you Google questions to ask, you'll get a ton of information and good stuff. I also have some too. If you're welcome to stop by my office. Other questions? That was a really good question. Yeah. Great question. Yeah, we're going to broadcast this, and this will be available on our website. So if you go to the College and Career website, this presentation will be on there. So that's a great question. I know some of you might want to take some notes, and so you can pull up this presentation and look at it on the website. It's on the GBS website. Yes. Good question. Other questions? Yes, Rebecca. The Glenbrook, the one-to-one, we do not. We offer it in the fall, and then we offer it in the spring. Good question. I would definitely invite you to take a look at that prep meet. Yeah, I think that's going to be a great resource. Yeah. So to get the information that I shared tonight, you have to go in with your son or daughter's password. If you want to use the generic Titans password, you can go in, but you're not going to get some of the specific information that you saw here on the website. It'll give you some general information on Naviance. Good question. Yes?
Is this presentation
to the sophomores? It is in part. So this particular presentation is not. I do a junior presentation to all of our juniors that talks about the college selection process. So there are parts of this that will be given to them. I do not give the sophomore presentation, but our counselors disseminate a majority of this information in small groups during the SRT to your son or daughter. Question. Other questions? Yeah.
Any
recommendations on how to find out more about grants?
I think the best place to go is to the websites of each of the colleges in particular. I think that's going to be your best bet. And each of those websites will also have a cost analysis calculator that you can go on and access, and you can put in your information, your financial information, and it'll basically give you, what the final cost would be at those schools. All schools are not required to do that. So if you go to the specific college website, it would be the best place to find that. I'll give you that information. Yeah. Yeah.
Are all ACT dates usually taken as a senior, or do you recommend they take their first test?
That's a great question. So the fall ACT dates, I personally probably think it's better for seniors to take those. I caution a little bit with the ACT as we start to get into the fall, only because it's a really important semester for juniors to focus on their curriculum. And I do understand that for some students, if they're an athlete or they're involved in an organization in the spring, and it might make it tough for them to take an ACT in the spring, then maybe they might take one in the early fall. I'm not a huge fan of it, only because I think it starts to take that focus away from the curriculum and really start to focus on the ACT. Just to give you a story, I had a parent one time call me. They were working with an outside test prep company that was really pushing the test prep. And the question was, they wanted to drop an academic because their test prep person had said they should spend more time with test prep and the curriculum's getting in the way. And I about fell out of my seat. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. Especially coming from the college side, thinking, this is terrible information to drop an academic. This happened to be a 4th year of Spanish for more test prep in the fall because it was interfering with test prep. So I think you have to be careful in terms of how you're looking at that because, again, the curriculum is so important, and that has to be the focus. I'm not saying that you can't do it in the fall, and you have to get to look at your schedule, but personally, I think it's really more for probably our seniors. I think the February ACT test is, for juniors is really a good test to kind of shoot for. You have plenty of, you can take it in February, you can take it in April, you can take it in June, you can take it in September. You'd have plenty of opportunities still to take that ACT. So that's a really good question. And again, that will differ for each family, but.
Is it important to do the prep right before the test? Can you do it several months in advance?
Typically, that's what most students would do. Yeah, two months usually before. And again, the test prep, or prep me rather, you'll again be able to put in when you're going to take it, and then it will prescribe a curriculum to meet that test date. Good question. Yeah.
You mentioned the sophomore test during their SRT, what your students doesn't have it.
Good question. So we had makeup sessions. We asked students to come down. Good question. We're still working on all the kinks with the SRT, but certainly the counselors did ask those students to come down at a different time. These are great questions. Any other questions? Yes.
Are there practice tests in the Learning Center?
Practice tests in the Titan Learning Center. I don't know if they might be giving, they might have some retired tests there when they do their test prep, during the test prep that they give. I don't know if they just generally have those tests in the TLC. If you go to ACT.org, you can pull up retired tests at ACT.org. They do have retired tests that you can take a look at those sample questions. PrepMe also will have a list of those retired tests and those sample questions as well when your student goes through and looks at PrepMe as well. So you'll have an opportunity to familiarize yourself with that test. Yeah. Yeah. Limit. You'd be surprised to answer that question. There are students that have taken it 5 or 6 times. And again, you can decide which of those scores to set, but there is technically no limit to the number of Yeah. There won't be a deadline, and it'll be depending on when that school is going to release those decisions. So it's really dependent on the school. Yep. Yeah. Good question. Other questions? Well, I really appreciate you being here with me tonight. I look forward to working with you in the future in this capacity. Thank you very much. Are you going to keep that?
Great stuff. I've been wanting to get into it for the last 2 years. So instead of asking
I mean, they're all the same.
No, I think often you have some kind of deciding definitely.
So maybe that's what it's because of this statement.
If you, in the past, the ACT used to also do that. So there's been a division of those two grading areas. Students will take part this year, as a junior, the adoption to opt out, which is different than the PSAE before. So the testing's changed a little bit. The ACT is separate from the PSAE, separate from the part, the PSAE, that you guys don't have to worry about anymore. None of that's really relevant. Now, the colleges have decided if that continues in terms of admission, it most likely will not work.
So the ACT says that the student would say, hey, you're
high school. Because think about it, the ACT is an achievement test, so that's the thing. Because here's the thing with these test people, they love to take it as students, they'll test them like in the sophomore year, and then I'll retest them in the junior year. And then this is the junior, in school. So there's going to be some movement, you know, in some of those tests. And I'm not, you know, doing research and continuing, which is why I was excited about the SAT, and then our students to percolating the thing, you know, it's exciting to see some of these companies jumping in. Also, well, that's a good question. I don't think I know. No, I don't think I know. Most of them are not really too much.
But those who take it early, technically, that probably do it again and again.
Absolutely.
They're not taking once and
Absolutely.
doing it.
Some might say, I'm going to take it in the fall just to get comfortable with it and see how I do it. But here's the only thing. If they take it too early, I know they need it. They're emotional. They feel bad and they automatically think, well, I can't do well on this test. Now we're done. Unless they do well. Now they're feeling good, you know, so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. So statistically, one is.
Statistically, I think February in the junior year. Okay.
But like for everybody.
Well, third, I have to ask because they should create an email address or something. That's what we try to say. They forget it, but they should put it on so they can. Yeah. Yeah, email address. Any other questions that you guys have? A thing that you would like to see covered? Yes. They do. So we go in probably I think we're in September and talk to the students about activities and stuff and talk to them about stuff. This is interesting. The other thing that I would also recommend is that it's also okay if they go by and they tell the rep, hey, I can't come today, but I would love to have your information. That's a compliment. You know, so that's a good thing to do too. If they can't be